Brought to you by 1AAuto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet.
Hi, I'm Don from 1A Auto. I hope this how-to video helps you out. And the next time you need a part for your vehicle, think of 1AAuto.com. Thanks.
In this video, we're going to show you how to replace a front control arm on this 2007 Pontiac G6. Pretty much the same for any G6 2005 to 2010, as well as the Saturn Aura. We show you the right hand or passenger side. The left hand or driver side is the same procedure. You'll need new control arm or control arms from 1AAuto.com. If one of your control arms, the bushings, are gone bad, most likely the other one's not far behind, so replacing them in pairs is usually a good idea. Jack and jack stands, 15 to 18 millimeter wrenches and sockets, a ratchet and a breaker bar or a pipe for some leverage, a pry bar, and a torque wrench. Start out by using just a socket to loosen the lug nut covers or the wheel cover, as in this case. We're going to use impact or air tools sometimes. If you don't have the benefit of air tools, just start with the vehicle on the ground, loosen the lug nuts, then raise and secure the vehicle and remove the lug nuts, wheel, and tire. Okay, now from underneath looking out, use a 15 millimeter wrench and a 16 millimeter socket and ratchet and loosen the ball joint, bolt and nut. Use an 18 millimeter socket and a ratchet and a pipe for extra leverage to remove the front bolt. This is looking towards the center of the car. There's a bolt in the front of the control arm, and we remove that. Okay, kind of towards where the back of the tire would be, there you see a large bushing here. There are two 18 millimeter bolts right on the bottom, and they have nuts on top. And we use an 18 millimeter socket and a ratchet, and we're going to use a piece of pipe for extra leverage. You could also use a breaker bar and just break those bolts free a little bit. And now I'm going to fast forward as we take an 18 millimeter wrench, feed it right under the stabilizer bar there, grab onto the nut that's on top, and then remove the bolts. And we're just going to want to use a wrench and loosen up this bolt a little bit. Just makes things easier to come around, and actually you can take it right off because it comes off fairly easily. Using a pry bar, we start by prying the front of the control arm out. Okay, and then go to the back bushing, put the pry bar in behind, and pry out. Okay, reinstall the control arm, and you can see our control arm, we're reinstalling the original. There's nothing wrong with it, so we're not going to put a new one on. Fairly new car. We're just showing you how to do it. Put the control arm up in place, the ball joint in place, and put the bolt through, and put the nut on to hold it. And now you can take the rear part of the control arm and feed it up into the frame, as well as at the same time you're feeding the front part up into the frame, and then a little help from the pry bar. Get everything lined up and in. Okay, turn your attention towards the front. Use a little hammer and just make sure you get the front lined up fairly well. Okay, put that bolt in place, and you'll have to just kind of grab on to the suspension and work it around. You can use a hammer to tap it in once you get it started as well. Okay, have your pry bar in hand just to help you move around that bushing a little bit until you get the bolt up, the first bolt up through, and then you can put the second bolt up through, put the nuts on the back, as well as start the bolt in to the end of the bushing. Okay, and I'll keep the speed going here as I put a wrench in behind and tighten up these two 18 millimeter bolts. These bolts should be between 75 and 85 foot-pounds. And torque the nut for the tie rod to 50 foot-pounds. Okay, and apologies we didn't film this very well. What you want to do is put a jack underneath the ball joint, the lower ball joint, and lift your suspension up until there's just weight off the jack stand. That gets your suspension into the right geometry, and then tighten that rear bushing bolt. You tighten that up to about 55 foot-pounds, and then tighten this front bolt to 70. Reinstall the wheel. Put the lug nuts on by hand first, just to make sure you don't cross-thread them, then tighten them preliminarily. Put the vehicle on the ground, torque the lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds using a star pattern.
Now reinstall your hubcap, and I'm going to do that with that 19mm socket, and I'm just going to screw them in by hand. Also want to make sure that you line up the valve stem with the notch in the hubcap for the valve stem.
We hope this helps you out. Brought to you by www.oneauto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet. Please feel free to call us toll-free 888-844-3393. We're the company that's here for you on the internet and in person.